We did evaluate it, and as you see on the screen, that was our scoring that we came up with. We do understand that that's the highest percentage rate, but they are also a local company, and the biggest thing with that is we are going to get actual on-site training for the guys on the ambulance to make sure that we're putting the right words, because if you don't use the right words, you don't get the money. So they're going to actually be down here to actually train us on a quarterly basis, in-person training, to make sure that we are collecting the right amount of money. So our suggestion is to go with Colleton Billing, and we're going to use them to basically help set up our fee schedule, because we haven't brought the fee schedule to you yet, but we want to see what the area is doing, because they are also doing the billing for Effingham County and Beaufort County. So they know what the locals are charging, and then we'll work with them and get that scheduled. So we'll bring it to you soon. But in addition, we also set up for the fire billing, which we used to do a while back. We updated the ordinances a few years ago, and we just don't have the personnel to be able to do that billing. That billing is only done on like vehicle accidents and things that are not Hardeeville citizens. If you're a Hardeeville citizen, you don't get that bill for the fire cost recovery. That is only to try to, basically we did it for 95 because there's people that come through there and they're from out of town. They don't pay taxes here, and they use a lot of our resources on the big crashes, especially those 18-wheelers. So we're trying to recover some of that cost. Back when I first got here in the early 2000s, we were getting a pretty good penny for that back then. And so we just haven't had anybody to do it. So we're going to get back to that, and they're going to help us do that. So now we're just, any questions?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mearsman.
What is the turnaround time on billing?
They said everything's billed within 72 hours.
Everything's billed with, but I mean their collection and remittance back to the city. Are they going to
as they get it, we can set it up however we want, and that's some of the process we'll get with the finance director. And do we want it weekly? Do we want it daily? Do we want it monthly? We can set that schedule as to when they send us the money back.
Is there a percentage of billed to collected?
Only collected is the 5.95 on collected money.
But I mean, did they give you a percentage of?
Yeah, they're
collected
collecting around
versus
90.
billed
Yeah, I
versus
don't have the exact
collected?
number, but it was in the 90s percentage-wise, so it was very high.
Good. I like that.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Mrs. Guzman.
So who's getting bill? So regular citizens, Hardeeville citizens, will they get a bill for using ambulances? No, only to.
That's a policy decision for y'all to make.
Okay.
And that'll be us bringing that schedule back, and then we can hash out those details. The fire cost recovery is already in the ordinance, and if you're inside the city limits, you do not get billed for that. What I have seen, and specifically we talked to Colleton and a couple others, what they do in a lot of cities is they bill the insurance, whatever the insurance pays, they stop right there. They don't go after the individuals, but they at least get, right. And it helps them at least pay for the supplies that they use on the call to keep the, just right.
I came from, didn't get.
So it'll be really up to you guys how we want to bill, but we'll bring all those options to you when we bring the ordinance to adjust the fee schedule.
Mr. White.
Steve, in terms of your internal resources and coordinating with John, do we have the people and processes in place to do this? Or is that going to stress you a little bit? I'm just curious in terms of the
Don't
billing.
stress me. It's been dealing with money. But our guys will have, it'll be very simple. They're basically creating their EMS reports like they have to do because the state says we have to. And the billing company actually will just pull those reports over, and then they'll do it. And then the money will go through John's department at that point.
So you're able to build on some existing things as opposed to needing
Yes,
to create
they
new
actually
things.
tack on to our records management system.
Yeah.
So they'll pull right out of our records management system. It is a standardized, it's called NMSIS 3.5, and it's the same form, doesn't matter what company you use, so it pulls the same data fields, everything. So they just pull all that NMSIS report, and within 72 hours, they bill for those calls. So
That's a good.
for us, it's very easy. So they literally just do their report, and once we QI it and it's approved, it goes to them basically.
Very good. Thank you, Steve.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Carroll.
I don't think I have any questions. I do remember, Steve, you're right, years ago, that was a pretty lucrative thing. But if that's what you were happy with and you recommend, then that's fine with me.
I think the training part is really what sold us on it. Getting that training constantly.
And they local,
Yes.
kind of local, something that's good.
Chief, I just have one concern and one only. I personally believe that I do not want any resident of the city of Hardyville to pay one extra penny for any fire or EMS services.
Well, they don't pay for fire for sure. That's
Okay.
already done.
So when we,
EMS, like I said, that's a policy decision on.
okay, so, but you'll bring that forward to us.
Bring it.
I
Couple
personally
different options,
of the opinion, they pay taxes. We did this to service them with the taxes that we charge, and they should not be charged for any ambulance service. I agree with, what was it, Colleton? You get what you get from the insurance company, and that's it.
And I agree with that part. If we can collect something from the insurance just to get some of the equipment, the soft goods that we have to use on the call, if we can get money to pay that back, then I would be happy with that.
And if they're from New Jersey or New York,
Charge them double?
they're fair game.
Oh, Illinois.
City manager.
I have one more question.
They're very advanced in the.
Please.
Talking about pulling the reports to send it to
Mhm.
Not October, yeah, early October, we got large amounts of money, and then in July of 2023 was over 5 million collected in that month.
Okay. Any
Questions?
any questions?
Yes, sir.
Alice, can the property be developed in any way, like for a public park or,
It can't, it's not as restrictive as our rural and critical lands program.
okay?
So yes, the answer is it could be. It just depends, that needs to be part of the application. And of course, the committee looks favorably, I think, on partnerships where there's, whoever the partner is also bringing things to the table too.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, walk, pathways, green pathways, things like that.
Okay. Other questions?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know how favorably it would score a sports complex. But if it had a lot of open space with it, I hate to say that, it just depends. But, Mark Davis in our planning department could, answer. We have different scoring for different types of applications. Like we have a separate application for farmland, preservation of farmland, separate application for buying easement rights. So it depends. We have 4 different scoring systems that we came up with. Okay?
Other questions? Are you able to elaborate on the 4 that have made application?
I'm not comfortable with this.
Okay.
Like I said.
Got it. Just making sure. Yes, understand. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So now we will move on to the 30-year regional vision. Joe Passament.
Good morning, everyone. Guess I can use this to do it. Let's see.
Will you make sure that mic is on?
Testing? No?
Let me help you.
Okay, now it's on. And this one is.
It should, so you might actually need to use Clubhouse for this.
Okay, all right. I did this presentation for my county at our retreat. Now I'm doing it for our region. And this is the vision statement of Soloco. What I'm going to ask each and every one of our municipalities is to take this document back, discuss it with your particular council, take a look at your vision and mission statements and how you integrate into what may be the possibilities in the next 30 years. That's our vision statement. That's our mission statement here. You will be able to read these. We don't have to read these. So, what's the possibility of our region in 30 years? Well, if we do nothing, it might look like this. Obviously, we don't want that. So what we have to do is we have to decide how we're going to do things. When I was elected to county council in 2019, I looked at our vision and mission statement. 3 words came out: live, work, and play, and that's what we've been basing our budgetary mission on. This year, I've created something new. This is the year of the C's. We have a quality of life here in Beaufort County, in Jasper County, in our surrounding counties, in our municipalities. And all of these C's have an impact on that quality of life now and well into the future. And what we do will determine our quality of life going forward. So what didn't we have 30 years ago? Now, the reason we didn't have a lot of communities 30 years ago, but I focus on Sun City, not because I live there, but because of the uniqueness of Sun City. The uniqueness was it crossed county borders. It is a community that is affected by what happens in Beaufort County on one side of 278 and Jasper County on the other side of 278. So that then already said, we're going to need to have a cooperative, collaborative effort as we go forward. It was designed to have 8,600 homes back in 1994 when it was created. Today, we have 9,200 homes. It will top out just short of 12,000. There was no exit 8 on I-95 or US 278. When you were coming from the north and wanted to go to Hilton Head Island, you had to use exit 28 on 95 because that was the old way to do it. It still works that way. 170 was a 2-lane road, 17 was a 2-lane road, no Paris Island Gateway, no Cross Island. Sea Pines roundabout blew everyone's mind. And as Jared said, when he was a young man, his mother took him on the first day that opened. She went around the circle 3 times before she could figure out how to get off it. No Bluffton Parkway. Was it a great place to live? Yes, it was. Is it a great place to live? Yes, it is. Will it be a great place to live? Yes, it will. Because we, the leaders, will make sure that that quality of life we manage. So here's what I believe we need to focus on. There are 11 items here that I think we need to focus on because it's the quality of life that we desire. Transportation, healthcare, education, parks and recreation, housing, tourism, our military, safety and security, trash and recycling, utilities, and last but certainly not least, probably the number one thing, our environment that we have. We have 2 things going for us and against us. We have land. We have a finite amount of land, and we have water. And those 2 things determine what we can do and what we can't do within our county. So I'm just giving you some possibilities. This is where we as an organization need to focus. I would like us to consider as a body, what are our priorities? What should be first? What should be next? What should we tackle together? How do we do that? So, in transportation, we have certain roads, the biggies, 170, 278, 462, 21, I-95. They have 3 things in common. Number 1, they all are our roads that we have to use to evacuate in an emergency. 2, they're all failing because they need repair, they need replacement, they need upgrades, signalization, widening, whatever. And 3, they start in Beaufort County, but they don't end there. So it is a joint effort. I can't change those. We have to deal with them. 170 is where 170 is, 278 is where it is, 462 is where it is. I can't change them. The only thing I can do over the next 30 years is fix the problems that they have. Bridges. I believe that we will have Hilton Head Island bridges replaced sooner than later. I think there may be a possible another bridge in the next 30 years at St. Helena. And possibly, because of what I believe could happen, I think there will be a bridge to Defusky Island. The question is, where is it going to be? Airports. Hilton Head Island Airport. We're in phase 1 of the expansion of Hilton Head Island Airport. Hilton Head Airport is a great airport, but it's an airport that is surrounded by houses. It's never going to grow any larger. We're going to modernize that. I think Beaufort Executive Airport, where it sits, is a perfect place where the rich and famous are going to house their toys, one of which will be flying cars. Why? Because we have a company that already is here in Beaufort County that can manufacture flying cars. And I think the Savannah Hilton Head Island International Airport will become a true international airport. Why? If you just read recently, an article said that Atlanta, which is now 7.2 million people live in that area, in the next 25 years will grow to over 9 million people. You can't make their airport bigger. If you've been at airports around the world, some of the biggest airports in the world take 20 to 25 minutes on the taxiway just to get in line to take off. So I believe that we're going to go to more regional type international airports. Where do we go if we want to go internationally? 4 hours to Atlanta, up down to Jacksonville, up to Charlotte. Those are our true international airports. I think in the next 30 years, we're going to do that. Rail line, CSX and Norfolk Southern and Amtrak are going to be expanding. We're talking about having direct Amtrak service between Savannah and Atlanta. Can you imagine how many people that's going to bring to our area if you have direct service that way? Same thing up and down the East Coast. Amtrak is great between New York City and Washington, D.C. They've been very popular there. They want to expand that. How, when, where, all in due time. I think Palmetto Breeze is going to be a great partner that we're going to have to do bus service to Hilton Head and municipalities and park and rides on I-95. And that we're going to have a complete ferry system. Years and years ago, 70 years ago, 80 years ago, the only way we got around here was by ferry. I think we're going to have a ferry service there. And I believe that the market is going to determine when we're going to have the Jasper Ocean Terminal. Everybody says it's never going to happen. Well, Charleston doesn't want it to happen. Charleston is the one that determined that it was never going to be in this area to begin with, when the mayor of Charleston, whose depth was only 15 feet, convinced everybody that dredging the Charleston port was the way to go, when Port Royal already existed with a 30-foot depth and could have handled all of the traffic. And that's the history of that. But I think the Jasper Ocean Terminal will come about because it's 18 miles closer to open water. It doesn't have any structures that you have to go under. It is time and money sensitive. When you bring an ocean freighter the size of the ones that could come to the Jasper Ocean Terminal, it's money. It takes right now 14 hours for a ship to come from the ocean to the Savannah port to unload. And that's a lot of money. The other big thing that we're going to have to deal with is our 2- and 4-wheel devices. Motorcycles, mopeds, scooters, bicycles, golf carts, and the new one, e-bikes. because e-bikes are very prominent on Hilton Head Island. It's a way for people to get to work. But we have certain rules and regulations that prevent them from being used in certain places, something we will have to deal with. Now, I said to you, bridge to Defusky Island. If the Jasper Ocean Terminal becomes a reality, they build a roadway from the current bridge, the Talmadge Bridge. That roadway comes all the way down to the Jasper Port. There is a small little stream that you put a bridge over, you go directly to Defusky Island. Okay, the next biggie, I think, is healthcare. We have been told that one of the major groups in our society is baby boomers. I'm one of those. I was the first year of the baby boomers. So now you're determining, oh, when the hell was he born? Okay, 1946. Oh, geez, he doesn't look that old, but he is. Okay, my generation is retiring in droves. And where do we want to be? We want to be in this area. We don't want to be in snow. We don't want to be in ice. We don't want to be in cold weather. We proved that during COVID. We're coming down here in droves. And guess what? We're going to need health care. Things that we had that killed us years ago, we're cured just like that. Right now, we have the ability, if you have to have your knee replaced, I had 2 of those, we can do that. If you have to have your hips replaced, we can do that. Your shoulder, we can do that. If you have other problems, we can't solve them. You have to go elsewhere. A simple thing like a procedure, if you have an eye condition that they have to change the fluid in your eyes, you have to go to Charleston. So I believe that we're going to have world-class facilities coming to this area. We need what is called a level 1, 2, and 3 trauma centers. Level 1 being the most sophisticated, the most costly, because it is those people who have the serious illnesses, the serious injuries that you deal with, and you go down the line. And you can see what we have and what we need for the future. Again, is it possible? Yes. Next, education. Education is the key to everything. I spent 46 years in education, so I can tell you firsthand, if you are an educated individual, the world is yours. And it doesn't mean you have to have a 4-year degree, a master's degree, and a doctoral degree. You just need to be highly educated, a skilled individual, and we certainly need those. That's why TCL is going to be a prominent partner, because it doesn't mean that you can't get your hands dirty and have a quality of life. We need the plumbers, the electricians, the carpenters, all of those individuals. I think USCB is going to be the crown jewel in the University of South Carolina system. We now have a 4-year institution here, but I think we're going to have professional degrees. I think we're going to have the law school. I think we're going to have probably DOs or PhDs for pharmacy in this area and continue to grow. I think our schools are going to be better. You can see that our Beaufort County schools, under the leadership of our current person, has uplifted the Beaufort County schools. They are getting a lot of attention. I think the Jasper schools are going to continue to grow. Our library system is second to none. That's going to continue to grow. So we have a wealth of opportunities, and when you have highly educated, skilled individuals, that's where you're going to get your healthcare professionals. That's where you're going to get your other groups that want to come here because we're a highly educated group. Parks and recreation. We have a very sophisticated parks and recreation program on Hilton Head Island, in Bluffton, the passive parks that we have, the parks that we have here in Jasper County. All of those things are great. We discovered something during COVID was that was the only place people could go to have a release. And they told us what was good, bad, and ugly about our parks. That we needed to upgrade them. We needed more trails. We needed this, that, and the other thing. So we've responded to do that. And we're going to continue to do that as we go forward. Housing. We know that housing is a problem. It's every kind of housing, okay? I told you the baby boomers are coming. Where do they want to live? They wanted to live in 55 and over gated communities. And I hate to say it this way because I have children and grandchildren and I'm still close to them even though they're all grown. But there's a lot of people that say, I don't want to deal with kids anymore. I've had enough of them. So they want those gated communities, okay? We need rental properties. Those of you who have lived a long time like myself, we didn't start off in a 4-bedroom house. We started off in a 1-bedroom apartment. And then as we grew, it went to a 2-bedroom apartment because we were going to have a child. And then we grew bigger because we had 2 children. Then we got our first house and our second house and so on and so forth. So that's the lifestyle we need. We need whatever you want to call it, affordable housing, workforce housing, whatever that definition is, we need it. So I think we need to do that. The dirty word there is zoning. What happens when a developer comes in and he takes a look at a piece of property and he says, I'd like you to upzone this. Upzoning is a dirty word right now, okay? But it's the only way we're going to be able to get affordable housing is to have a higher density. We need to take a look at that. We need to have walkable communities. And I will tell you this, because it sounds crazy, because I do live in a community that's gated. Our generation, my generation, we grew up with cars and muscle cars. There's going to come a time kicking and screaming, I'm not going to be able to drive anymore. But I wanted a place to live where I could use my golf cart. Or I could walk someplace. We need communities like that, that have the ability for people to transpose their lives and be able to do what they want to do, where they want to do that. The biggie, daycare. We have in Beaufort County a lot of people who work for us who have children. It's tough. And I don't mean this derogatorily, but when the Beaufort County schools close, I have a problem. I have to shut down my facilities. Why? Because I have a lot of people that have kids. They can't go home by themselves. So we need facilities where they can be cared for. And so there are companies out there that do that. We just have to find that way. Tourism, we're king. Everybody wants to go to Bluffton, Hilton Head Island, Beaufort, Fripp Island, Dataw, Daufuskie. We are a tourism site. We have to take advantage of that. We have a rich culture of our Gullah community. We talk about Santa Elena and where it was founded, and we don't get some of that information out. I just happened to take a group of people the other day on some historical markers throughout Beaufort County, and their eyes were this big. I didn't know that. Wow, this exists? Yes, it does. We have to find a better way to get that message out. And they're still going to come. Okay, walking trails, all of those. Our military is essential here. We have 3 main installations: Marine Corps Air Station, Parris Island, and the Naval Hospital. Now, the Naval Hospital is changing because they're going to relocate from where they are. That is a prime piece of property that we could redevelop. We're trying to put a plan together. Marine Corps Air Station, the new Colonel Ortman is from this area. So he knows how important this area is. He knows how he wants to work with each and every one of us. He knows that he has to go through federal regulations to do things on Paris Island. On Marine Corps Air Station. He wants to work with the county in intergovernmental relations, and we're starting to do that. Same thing with Paris Island. Safety and security. Our county continues to grow. Jasper County continues to grow. Our surrounding counties continue to grow. We're talking about a 4-county detention center now. Why? Each of us has its own problems with our detention center. They were built at a time and place where we did not handle male prisoners and female prisoners differently. We got in trouble over that. We now have to upgrade our facilities. Some of our surrounding counties, they're so bad. We've said to them, we can do better. If we put a single facility in to cover these 4 counties, we don't have to fight with each other over the talent that we need to run the detention center, the cost to build it, and the cost to maintain it. So now we have 4 counties for the first time in decades working together. We are going to move our sheriff's entire operations to a more centralized location in Beaufort County. It is the corner of 462 and 170. It's a 120-acre piece of property that we've now purchased. We're in the process of putting out the feelers as to what it would cost to actually develop that property so that we can handle everything appropriately. Here's a biggie, trash and recycling. If you come from other states and you move here, people go, what the heck is wrong here? We recycled everything. We handled our trash differently. We had recycling centers. We had MRFs. We had compactors. We did everything. Why don't we do that here? I am part of a group called the Riverbend Road Warriors. The second Saturday of every month, we pick up trash from the intersection of 172-78 all the way up past the animal shelter. On both sides of the road, we used to do the center of the road. It became too difficult to do that because of the speeders, and the sheriff actually shut us down. We collect probably, when we're out there, between 60 and 70 bagfuls of trash. Why? Because 170 is the route that you take for all of the trash vehicles to get to the Hickory Hill site. Hickory Hill is reaching its max. Where do we go from there? How do we handle all of our trash? We have some ideas of that. Utilities, this is a biggie. This is where we have to work together. Water, sewer, electric, gas, telephone, internet service, broadband service, mobile service, all of these things we need to take a look at. What do we have now and what is the future? And how do we attain that? And finally, our environment. We have some great groves. Look at them. Open Land Trust, the Rural and Critical Lands Trust, the Coastal Conservation League, and now our Green Space Committee. Beaufort County has been a leader in these. What's the possibility in 30 years? Well, Green Space was designed specifically for a 2-year plan because we knew we had to do something with transportation. So Green Space goes off at the end of this year. They will have a $100 million war chest, but it isn't over because part of the 2024 referendum will have a green belt component. That will allow us to raise millions of dollars as well so that we can continue talking about our environment. We need to address sea level. We need to address the water quality that we have. Gas, electric, I told you all of those. It is part and parcel of what we do. So, where do we go from here, I turn to each of our mayors and our councils in our surrounding communities and say, take this document, go back to your particular councils, discuss this. What do you think? You think the guy who came up with this idea is an idiot? Is he right? Is it possible? What do we do in each of those areas? What do we do as Soloco to say, this is the next big thing, and how do we do it? That's my story.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Comments?
I stunned everybody into.
Well, I do have a question because you've brought up a lot of information, and I'd like to know the depth of the sources of the information that you got.
Well, I read a lot. I think about things. I've taken a look at what we've done in the past, our past referendums, why they worked or didn't work. What did we do 30 years ago? How did we decide that that was the next thing we had to do? So it's a reflection of what we did, where we are, and what I'd like to see us be able to say, that's our legacy. This is how we better our quality of life.
Yeah, I mean, taking a stance and looking 30 years down the road as to what could happen best, based on the past that did happen. If we don't take control of it now, then it will be something we don't want.
Right.
So that's what we got to make certain of, that we're addressing all these issues to protect our future. As we're all working now for the Lowcountry, not just our individual hometown, but it's for the Lowcountry and the betterment of our big community. I applaud you in putting so much thought into this.
And I will tell you, there are certain things we can do and certain things we can't do. We can't change some things. I think the most determining factor of the future is going to be the widening of I-95. In the next 30 years, obviously, we have a plan. We already know it's going to go from 0 to exit 8. That's a 34-month contract, starts in 2025. And then from there it goes to Yemsee. And then after that, it's going to go further up. In the next 30 years, it'll probably be 3 lanes all the way from Georgia to the North Carolina border. Because we can't change that, look what's going to happen. You now have a 3-lane road that everybody can use to come here easily. Look at all the property that is along I-95 that could be developed because it's now a 3-lane road. That certainly tells me we have to have a plan.
Joe, if I may say to you, the only great presentation, I think it's awesome. It's the real world. It's where we are. It's what we have to look forward to. My only suggestion would be for us to keep in mind that the last thing we talked about is our most critical thing.
Yes, absolutely.
If we're going to protect our quality of life before we do any of those other options, the environment needs to be up here and everything under it. Yep. Instead of being last on the list here.
And I did that specifically to say, okay, that's the last slide you see. That's the impression I want to leave you with. It's our environment. We have groups out there. We are the ones. Beaufort County passed rural and critical lands first. We did green space first. Other counties are now coming to us and saying, how'd you do this? Other counties are coming to us to say, how'd you do that? And we're giving them the blueprint and say, this is how you do it. This is how you coordinate things. Yes, we're talking about economic development because we have to, okay? People are going to come here, whether we like it or not. Go back to COVID. They came in droves here. Why? Because the world changed. You could work from home. You didn't have to live in an apartment in New York City, okay? You could live down here and your job was still in New York State, and you came. Well, okay, that says something. Look what else is going on. We now have rules and regulations about drive-throughs. Well, COVID said to all of the fast food chains, don't do what you did anymore, okay? You don't need the inside space at McDonald's. You just need the drive-through, instantaneous. We're gonna have to deal with that because we have them all over the place and they want to change them to drive-throughs. So it's, how do we handle the economic development? How do we handle the environment? How do we handle every one of these things? I think we can. I think, you have to, whether you like it or not, you have to hear it. Because you say, well, this is impossible. No, it's not. It's impossible because it hasn't been made possible yet. And that's our job. That's our legacy.
Okay. Any other comments? Tear it up, it's paid for. All right, we'll move to discussion of March agenda. Prior board suggestions have been regional update from Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer Authority, Pembina Electric, and Dominion, 15 minutes each. Thoughts?
Well, because what I said,
Yep.
this is a good segue now. What part do they play?
Right.
That would be,
Pivotal part.
yeah.
Yep. Okay, so we'll make that recommendation for that to move forward. General discussion.
Well, the thing is, okay, do you think it's a good idea for you to bring it back to your councils so that they have input, so that we as a body can say, okay, number one priority may be transportation? Because every one of the roads that we're talking about, that I said, have three things in common, but that's quality of life. If you can't get to work, that ruins your quality of life. And that's what we're doing, is every day on 170, I have an advantage and disadvantage. I live on 170. Every day I go to the light and I look to the left and I look to the right. If I'm going left and I see red lights, I get to go across through Sun City because I have a gate pass. What about the thousands of people that are on 170 that can't do that? That's a serious problem.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question.
Yes.
Is this a plan that is endorsed by county council, or is this your individual vision?
I presented it to them, and we have said that the number one priority, we believe, is a referendum on transportation.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Hang on one second.
Joe, you did a pretty good job of trying to capture, I think, everything from the last 30 years. One of the things that I think Bluffton has been concerned with is growing smarter.
Mm-hmm.
And growing smarter tells us that the things that we did yesterday didn't work. And so now the problem that we have with too much development, some of your suggestions says that we should prepare for more development. That's a contradiction to what we believe. So how do we find the middle of the road? Because yes, we do have to be in a place where we prepare for the worst, if you will, especially trying to prepare for hurricane evacuations. So there's, in growing, there's always that oscillator effect, ups and downs. So how, when we get to the down, how we balance. And I think that's another think tank that we all need to sit down and figure out, how can we be more proactive and not be found where we are now, trying to figure out how to catch up where we kind of lost our way.
Okay, I will answer it this way, and, I don't want to put words in Larry's mouth, but yes, he has a problem. It wasn't his creation. 30 years ago is when development agreements were all put in place in the town of Bluffton. They didn't come to fruition for a variety of reasons. There was the crash in 2007-8. There is now changes in our world that allows individuals to come to this area. And so there is the pressure now for those development agreements to be put in place. When you have an agreement, you have buy rights, okay? I get to put this many houses on here because that's the agreement that was done. And we can't do anything about that, so we have to prepare for it. How do we prepare for that? Well, it may be we have more input as to the ingress and egress along those lines. So that we say, well, we know here is this road and here's all these developments. I'm not going to let the developer dictate, I want my ingress here, you want yours right here, and I want a light. No, I think that's where we can have some controls over. So that's the balancing act that we're going to have to do, is to how we prepare. And you're talking about smart cities. If you read about the cars of the future, they're now your computer. The computers in the cars have the ability to talk to each other. So we're talking about areas of the country where they're putting the wires in the road, so as the cars travel down there, they're communicating not only with each other, but they're communicating with the central signalization problems that exist along those. So the sky's the limit on there. So we just have to be cognizant of those kinds of things that can happen. Remember, it was impossible to think 30 years ago that we would have an electric car. Look what we have now. Look what's happening on I-95. We are going to have the ability for our electric cars to charge along the way.
Yes.
I think Lowcountry should be the educational portion. I've only been here like 2 years now, and I find that Soloco has great ideas, but when it comes to implementation, it's just like stormwater. We had a great plan, but who has approved it? It's very little. I think we have to get education, and then we set up another more definite program with the counties, with the municipalities that have power, not to suggest, but to actually do. That's saying number one. And the other thing in general discussion is, Ms. Howard, why is people not coming to you for more applications? Is there a reason?
She had to leave. Yeah, she had to leave. That's why she's not up here.
There was a set of applications, and probably, Rob, you can talk better than I can about the process that we've gone through.
Yes, we'll
Come on up.
have windows of.
Come on up.
Good morning.
Morning.
Robert Merchant, I'm Director of Planning and Zoning in Beaufort County. So for the Green Space Program, we have windows of funding. So we don't accept applications nonstop. We have the window opens up. We invite people to come in for a pre-application conference. We hold that, and then we have a deadline for submittal of the application. So we've had 4 come in the first time. Right now, we have some pending, I believe, first week of March, the Green Space Advisory Committee, I don't have the exact date, so they will be meeting to look at those, that next set of applications. Why we don't have more, I can't really speak to that, but I think that, we're anticipating that there's going to be a lot of interest in this program just based on the projects that we've seen so far.
I think once we have a determination of the first purchase or the first conservation easement on a property or something like that, I think more people are gonna say, hey, okay, I'd like to get in on it.
Well, it passed because it's needed, so take advantage of it, you know, for each municipality, so that's very important. Any other general? Yeah, go ahead.
Excuse me, when you do the applications, this is, I guess, something new. I'd like to see this come to Jasper, to tell you the truth.
Mhm. Yeah.
Is, you say just that there's windows. Maybe you should expand the windows. How do you get into that window? Meaning, do you publicize this, or how do you get that window? Or do you just apply it, and then when it comes up, that's when you start looking at them? I mean, do you constantly take applications in?
No, actually, we take it in during a certain period of time. But I mean, we're getting that word out about when the windows of, it's on our website. We're working on improving the green space website, but we do have a website online that communicates that information. And we get inquiries throughout that, constant inquiries, and we guide them to that open application process.
Rob, you got a pre-application document that I think kind of kicks it off that can be submitted at any time. Then they meet with staff.
Yes.
there's a review, and then there's a formal application.
Yeah. So it starts with an application.
That means that people can't look ahead to say, I'm gonna be building this. What do I do? Thank you.
Okay.
Any other general discussion?
I have one question. I just want to know how the other entities are handling the EV stations, electric vehicle charging stations.
I know that we were, based off our LMO, we are required to have a certain number for new developments. Some like it, some do not. That's how it's handled.
Yeah, and here's the long-term effect on EVs. Think about it. Let's just use Sun City as an example. 9,200 homes. Can you imagine if 9,200 houses had an EV car and plug-in because they're high charge? You put a facility in your house. Houses weren't built with the power that you need. They might be 200 amps. Will you need a 300 amp house, a 400 amp house? Those are the kinds of things that we're going to need to discuss. We know that electricity generation in this state is lagging immensely because companies have come and said, gee, that's a great place. Here's what I need. I need 700 megawatts. We don't have that. Okay, I'm gonna go someplace else. So that's a fact of life that we have to deal with. Besides just charging stations in general, it's the households.
Well, would that be something that government dictates or imposes on private development? Or would that be more of an educational thing for the private developments to realize that looking into the future, that that's what they should do?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, as far as government telling a development that they have to have a certain amount of.
I also think that,
Or a certain amount of power to charge a car that someone might buy. Might have, might not. I don't.
and that could be part of the conversation at the next meeting when we've got Palo Electric
Yeah.
in-house to
Because,
go over that.
You know, let's face it, the developers, they go on what the market says.
Well, the market will dictate.
Yeah, the market may dictate that this is the kind of house I want for the future. You know, remember we had houses that were built in the 50s, they were built a certain way, and then they built them differently in the 60s and the 70s. Now we have the open concept. Well, now they may well be saying, one of the things that, you know, come to my community because you get a free charging station in your house.
Yep. So we've got 10 minutes left, and I want to open up for public comments, questions.
I can take it.
I know, that's why I said it, Joe. So anybody have any? Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Morning, Jesse.
Good morning. Jesse White with the Coastal Conservation League. Thank you for including us in your presentation and your vision. I'm curious how you see this regional vision fitting in with each comprehensive plan and the county's comprehensive plan? And like, is that the implementation feature? Or
That's an excellent question. We do have a lot of plans. We have to see, how do they match? Because I started the conversation with the vision and mission statement that Soloco has. Now you go back and you say, oh, wait a second, my vision and mission statement for my community, my council is a little bit different. What do we need to do to make them match? So it is education. We need to know what our plans are for the future, how they dovetail, and how the environment would be affected.
I think you would probably, could see some amendments to the comp plans
Yeah.
based off of what comes out of each municipality's meetings.
I would just be, I would caution that if you're going to make changes to the comp plan that has gone through the public process, that, you know, that this Soloco vision also have a component of public.
It would still go through the public process.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Jocelyn Steiger, Beaufort Jasper County Realtors and Hilton Head Area Realtors. More of a kind of a philosophical comment. As I'm going around to each of the municipalities in the county, as you know, everybody has put forth great effort into preserving green space. And whenever a council takes up things about preserving green space and passes it, you have the people come out who want affordable and workforce housing and are desperate for density and workforce housing. And then we get a great state bill that comes down and says to the municipalities, you can use your accommodations tax, 15% of it, to build your workforce housing and your affordable housing. And councils take that up, and people come out saying, no, we don't want development. We need to preserve green space. So what I see is this constant vicious cycle. And both of those topics keep getting assistance with revenue streams, and they're in direct opposition to each other. And council ends up in direct opposition to each other. And I just want to know how we deal with this moving forward.
So that's a great question, and it goes back to the educational piece. So I can speak for Hilton Head. You know, we've purchased 1,700 acres of land, whatever that number is. But the education piece of what does that mean, right? How does that translate back to the community? And that means, reduction of 4,400 homes. It means a reduction of 1,440 hotel rooms. It means a reduction of 44, and I'm using a lot of force, but that's how it came out, 44,000 vehicle trips a day. So the positive of purchasing it creates the negatives, right? So you've got to address your whole economy, right? How it's affected, and that comes through the educational piece and a holistic look to make certain you're doing the right things to maintain your business atmosphere, your tourism atmosphere, and your quality of life residential atmosphere. So it's a challenge as you've seen, and that's where you vote with your convictions.
I think the purchasing part is the first thing. That way, it gives you time to figure out what it is you want, what's needed, what you want to do in the future. If you leave it out there and don't purchase it when you have an opportunity to, someone's going to do something that you might like or might not. So, having control of it, I think, is definitely the first right step.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Kathy DeCourcy. I'm a Jasper County resident. It's great that you are all here and discussing this, but what do you do when you go back and you're not in coordination? Right now, I'm a Jasper County resident, and my land, my peaceful, quiet land, is threatened by an annexation by the town of Ridgeland, while Jasper County is in a moratorium. Do you guys hold each other accountable? I don't see Ridgeland here. They don't, it's great that everybody gets together, but you have that one out person that doesn't follow the crowd.
Yeah, and I think the answer to that, and anybody jump in if you feel like it, this is not a governing body to oversee each municipality. It's to bring the discussions to the public, to let everybody know what is being worked on cohesively or not. Yeah, Ridgeland's is not a part of this. They're not here, so we can't speak to that. But I think that's just the fact that we're trying to bring issues to light and bring public input to light so that we can address it in an educated way as well. I know that doesn't solve your problem, but
It just takes one person to throw a wrench in the whole regional plan. You know, it's a great regional plan, but if we all don't cooperate.
and each municipality with the plan that was presented today has to adopt, or it doesn't have to, but needs to review it and see what portions of it are acceptable for each municipality and how that all comes together. So.
And I'm an extreme advocate for preserving our history here. I am watching developments come in and just wipe out our history. I ask all of you to make sure that you have protection of those historic sites, grounds, whatever they are, that we do protect those.
Yep, thank you. Anybody else? We got 3 minutes. I'm not going to call on you, Joe. Seeing that we're a little bit early finishing up, so we're adjourned. Y'all have a great day.